Everyone is valuable. There's value in every opportunity, like whether you're going to learn a new technique or you're going to meet new people who put you in a new position that you didn't even see coming. Being able to elevate the subject or the client or whoever you're working with, like that's a huge skill. And I think by taking things that don't necessarily excite you, but seeing it as an opportunity, really like flex your creative muscles and really like push yourself out of your comfort zone, it's really valuable.
You're not just a photographer at St. Woods, you're doing a lot more.
No, photography is really like a small part of my job at St. Woods. I think it's important if you're an artist or a creative person in general to have time to do non-creative work. I'm gonna work until I die.
Do you think?
Yeah, because why would I stop taking photos ever? You have to just do the shit that you don't want to do. If you're given an opportunity, you should just take it.
Now you just shot Drake. As far as I know, you were taking pictures of your friends and family back in high school. And that's what kind of made you take photography seriously. How did you go from, that kid who is just taking friends and family pictures to someone whose full-time job is doing photography for multiple brands, and now you work at St. Woods?
I mean, I think it's just constant chipping away, like over the years, just fucking chipping away at photography and like learning how to do it on like a real professional level. Like when I started freelancing when I was like 18, 19, I still lived in the West Island in the suburbs. And so like I didn't have like fashion clients or like, like brands hitting me up. I was doing content for like gyms, like little Instagram videos and photos of like the gyms and people in the fitness classes. And like that's how I learned how to like freelance, is by doing that, learning how to deal with clients and learning how to like, charge people to work. And so it's just like a very slow but steady evolution of like, first I started taking pictures from my friends, and then like maybe a couple random people I don't know also want pictures like that. So then I'm like, okay, $20, like whatever. Like I was at 17, 18. And then like eventually this guy that I know from high school was like, yo, I want you to make a video of me like training for my Instagram, because he had like a fitness Instagram. And then I meet a guy from a gym, and then I start doing the gym stuff. And then from there, like just continue freelancing. And just like, it's really like the only way to advance in this type of thing is really networking and like meeting people who are going to put you in the right position that you want to be in. And so like I've been fortunate to just like meet the right people at the right times to give me opportunities to shoot the stuff I wanted to. Then like I started doing some stuff for like local musicians, and then I started doing stuff for other musicians, and then a couple years, like a year or two later, like I start working at St. Woods, and then from St. Woods like
so
that
on
was like
and so
really
forth, yeah.
That was really like a big catalyst for me. It was like just like being at St. Woods for the last 3.5 years is like put me in such an incredible position, and like I owe that company like a lot of like of like what I'm doing now is because of my place there and their trust in me, and the way like they've put me in situations where I'm like shooting mural festival or shooting after parties, shooting lookbooks, like whatever. But yeah, it's just like constantly like
chipping away
and like kind of going from one thing to the next.
How do you put yourself in the right positions or the right places with the right people type of thing?
For a long time, I think when I was younger, I was like worried about having the right clients, like I was like, oh, like I want to be aligned with this type of thing, and I want to do this thing. Like I knew like I wanted to do fashion, I wanted to shoot, like I wanted to shoot with real models. Like I wanted to do all of that. I didn't want to do the fitness stuff anymore. I didn't want to do like people's like random Instagram photos. I think like what I've realized, especially in the last year or so, is that like if someone is giving you an opportunity to work with them as a photographer, as a designer, like whatever, like as a freelance artist, if you're giving an opportunity, especially if you're young, like I'm 23, so I'm still like starting out, but you kind of just have to take it. And I always tell people, like my friends and whatever that are doing this too, I tell them like, you have to just do the shit that you don't want to do. Everyone is valuable. And this makes it sound like I'm using people, but like you just need to know that like if you're given an opportunity, you should just take it. I see it more as like, okay, they trust me to like execute something, and this is an opportunity for me to elevate this thing that I'm working on, like whoever I'm working with. And so it's not so much about, meeting the right people, but it's about just working the right way.
9 out of 10 opportunities you would say yes just so you can get the experience and you can do the work that you don't want to do, so in future it can pay off.
Yeah, more or less. Like I still don't say no to a lot of things, like, because like I said, like there's value in every opportunity, like whether you're going to learn a new technique or you're going to meet new people who will, you know, put you in a new position that you didn't even see coming, you know. And so yeah, most of the time I do like just take whatever work comes to me, because for one, I need to, you know, make money, but also like there is value in just being versatile. If you could go to someone who maybe in the past, like from a photography standpoint, like maybe in the past, like their photos that they were getting from someone else weren't as good. If you could go somewhere and like give them like amazing work, and like that really elevates them, and then people see, oh, like this is who did this and this is who made this brand like look cooler, like that's super valuable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like being able to elevate the subject or the client or whoever you're working with, like that's a huge skill. And I think like by taking things that don't necessarily excite you, but seeing it as an opportunity to, you know, really like flex your creative muscles and really like push yourself out of your comfort zone, it's really valuable.
You know how Tyler the creator, he said, you also don't know who's watching.
Exactly.
Because of internet. Can you think of a project that you didn't want it to do, but you still did it because you were looking at the bigger picture?
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think you have more projects that you force yourself to work through? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, really, like the things that really like excite me and the things that I've been working towards like my whole career, like I mean whole career, I'm like 45, but I'm like, you know, I'm still young, but still like the whole time I've been taking photos, like the things I've been working towards are things like lookbooks or like, you know, press photos for an artist or covering like certain events, big concerts, whatever.
Drake concert.
Like the article I did for Palindrome, like that was really cool for me. Like that's the type of shit that I've always been working towards and that I've always wanted to do. But there's a lot of stuff in between that I don't necessarily want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an opportunity to like be very good at something and to like show people that like, oh, I could do this too. And I could like, you know, I'll go shoot at a restaurant and I know how to shoot food, or I'll go shoot, you know, this brand that I don't necessarily like, I wouldn't wear, or like I don't like align with like their style or whatever, but I'll still like, you know, I'll still shoot it and I'll like make it work for them, but also it like works for me.
From an outsider perspective, man, I thought like every project that you're working on, it's probably ignorant to say that every project you're working on, you're having a lot of fun, but interesting. So, you know, we kind of touched on this, and you actually posted on your Instagram, you went to Saintwoods' 8th collection, looked at the photos on the wall, the lookbook to be precise, and now you're working at Saintwoods, as you said. And you've been working there for like more than 3 years now.
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah.
So how did that journey start?
Yeah, so I was like, I guess I was 18 at the time, and one of my friends was wearing the Saintwoods by Nike hoodie that they did, because they did like a Air Force One and a little like apparel capsule. And I remember asking like what it was, and my friend was like, oh, it's like this brand from Montreal, they're really cool. And so then like a couple weeks later, like the SW8 pop-up was happening, and so he was like, yo, come to the pop-up, like we'll go see the new collection and get some stuff, whatever. And so I went, and like, yeah, like you said, like I saw they had like a little like corner with like a bunch of like random shit, and they had like the clothes were hung on the wall, and then they had like small prints of the lookbook like pasted on the walls too. And yeah, it was just like, I was like, this is cool, and this is something I've never really experienced and or like have seen, because I wasn't like super exposed to fashion in Montreal at all, or like pop-up shops and shit. Like I wasn't like, I was still coming into that world, you know, like at the time, like it was like the like sort of later days of like hype culture and sneakers and shit. And so like I used to work at Exclusivity, so like I was like aware of that stuff, but I wasn't like so into it. So anyways, I went to this pop-up, I thought it was cool. And then like, this is in like October 29. Yeah. And then early like 2020, like in January, they posted that they were hiring interns. And so I wasn't like at the time, like I was out of school and I was just like kind of freelancing, but not really making any money. And I was like, whatever, this could be cool, like foot in the door type of thing. And so I just applied like on a whim, not thinking I would get it, because like I have no like like at the time my portfolio wasn't super impressive, and like I had never really worked in fashion. Well, I guess I had, but like I'd worked in retail, but not like for a brand or anything. I didn't have my own brand or anything. Anyways, but they ended up interviewing me, and then I did a second like interview process thing, and I started interning there in February. Then obviously COVID started, so then my internship got extended through the summer instead of ending, and it was supposed to end in like May, I think, but it ended up going throughout the summer, and then by September I had a job. So technically, like my title there is logistics coordinator, because I do all the shipping and like stock keeping and like sending, receiving, customer service. Like that's like my actual job. And then over time, like I've gotten to
get into photography.
Yeah, like I've gained responsibilities more like focused on photography for the bars and restaurants that we work with, or like for the brand itself.
Okay, so you're not just a photographer at Saintwoods. You're doing a lot more.
No, photography is really like a small part of my job at Saintwoods. Like the rest of my job is really like shipping, receiving, packing boxes, like keeping the stockroom tidy, that type of thing.
Do you like it?
Yeah. it's I mean, everyone's job at Saintwoods is like difficult, and everyone has like a specific role that they need to play. But I do enjoy it, because I think it's important, if you're an artist or a creative person in general, to have time to do non-creative work. And so like,
interesting. Okay.
So like for, part of my week, I'm spending it in the office, like not thinking about photos, not thinking about like art or anything. I'm just like listening to music or podcasts and just like packing boxes or tidying up or, whatever, or like doing like paperwork for customs to like get a shipment through or whatever. So I think there's value in that too, in like the downtime in between. Because if you're creative all the time, like, I mean, I guess it works for some people, but for me, like I can't just like constantly be on.
Interesting. You went to this 8th collection, luckily after you saw they had a job posting. Mm-hmm. You applied, got the job. And then after that, you slowly started, just chipping away. Yeah. Started taking pictures, and now you just shot Drake.
I shot the Drake concert.
Yeah, but you still shot Drake.
Yeah. But I don't want to say I shot Drake, because it's like I didn't shoot an album cover or like a magazine editorial or something with him, or his press photos. Like it was very cool. Don't get me wrong. Like I was very like stoked about it. Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of people from like high school or from CJET being like, yo, you made it. Yeah, yo. And I'm like, no, not really, because like I'm still like, I'm still just fucking chipping away. Like it doesn't. My friend asked me on the weekend, he was like, or yesterday, he's like, do you think like this is going to change a lot for you? And I was like, not really. Like I think it's like a very good credential to have, and like obviously like surreal, like super amazing experience, and like very lucky, very fortunate to be put in that position. But at the end of the day, it was just event coverage, and he didn't even use any of the photos I shot, so there's still like I don't see it as like, oh, like this is good, like this is what I was working towards. Like I just see it as like very cool, like definitely a highlight of my year so far, but like not the end all be all.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even really have end all be all at 23 years old, right? No,
well, you can't even have end all be all as a photographer. Like I'm gonna work until I die.
Do you think?
I mean? Yeah, because why would I stop taking photos ever? It's just gonna change. Like I won't be doing like, when hopefully I make it to 94, I'm not gonna be shooting, like what I'm shooting now. I'll probably be working on like personal projects, or maybe I'll have a studio team like printing like archives of my work or whatever. But I'm not gonna like, it's not like I'm gonna turn 65 and be like, that's it for me. Like, yeah, because that's my life, is like taking pictures. It's my life's work. So like I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I see the podcast that way as well. Like, yeah, I mean, why would I? Type of thing, right? We did get quite lucky, because like we found something that we really like. Mm-hmm. Did you always, by always what I mean is when you were like 10 years old, knew that you want to pursue photography?
I've been interested in it since I was a kid because I grew up around a lot of like hobby photographers, like my uncle Ed and my cousin Mark, my cousin Tavish. Like they were all older than me, and they would come to like my family events, and like they would have their cameras, and I was always like fascinated by it. And so my uncle Ed gave me like my first film camera when I was like 10. It was just a camera he had lying around, so he gave it to me, and I still use it today because it's actually like a pretty like decent camera. Obviously when I was 10, I didn't know how to use it until I was like 16. So like from like 10 to 16, I wasn't really putting film through it or anything. I just had it.
What camera is this?
It's a Canon Rebel 2000. So it's just like, it's similar to this camera,
Yeah.
but it's like a film camera.
Those ones are good though.
Yeah, they're sick because they have autofocus, which is nice because like not a lot of film cameras have that. So I still use it a lot, and like, you know, it's one of my most cherished like possessions because it's really like what ignited sort of like this love for me. But yeah, like I grew up around it, and when I was a teenager, when I was young, I had a camera like this also, and my cousin Tavish, who's like 4 years older than me, he would like invite, because I lived in the suburbs, so he grew up like in the plateau, so he would invite me into the city, and like we would go around and like take photos, and he'd like show me new stuff and like show me the city. And like that was so formative for me. Like I think he also like taught me a lot about like how to deal with people and like how to freelance, and you know, how to like assert my like value with people, and like make sure I wasn't getting like, you know, taken advantage of when I was younger, started freelancing. But yeah, so it's always been like part of my life, and it's just like grown over time.
Yeah, so Aidan, that was, you know, at 16, just experimenting with photography, wasn't as educated or good or even charming to what he is with people today. I hope what I just said made sense. So what is the difference between that Aidan that was not as good as, that wasn't as good as he is now dealing with people, to Aidan today?
But yeah, I think like the difference is really just maturity and like having more life experience. I think like obviously like comparing like my 23-year-old self to my 16-year-old self, like there's a lot of life from 16 to 23. And I think like when I was a kid, like I was very comfortable in like the places I was comfortable in, obviously like where I grew up, like in the town I grew up in, like around my friends, like I was very confident, very like easygoing around them. But then like when I started working in the city, when I started working at Saintwoods, like scared the shit out of me because like I'd never been in situations like that, and like I didn't know necessarily how to handle myself. So like even like the difference between my 20-year-old self and my 23-year-old self is crazy, because like people would come into the office when I was younger at Saintwoods, and like I'd be like so nervous, like even if they weren't like, you know, like celebrities or whatever, I would be like, who's this person? And I'd like just be really quiet. I'd choke on my words, like just like not really know what to say or do. And now like I've been in so many of those situations now where I'm like basically desensitized to that, and like I don't really get starstruck, and I don't really like get like nervous in situations like that, and I feel like I could like handle myself around people. So that's the main difference, is just like I've got more mature and like just become more comfortable around also.
Something I've noticed is I guess this might be something that comes second nature to you, but you've been just good with, not just with people, but like, you know, the right places, and then so you know the right places, right position to be around people type of thing. And I think it comes from the knowledge that you have of the culture itself that we're in. How do you go about being in the media team for Drake's concert?
It was through, so Zach from Saintwoods, who's like the owner of the co-owner of the company, and like, for lack of a better term, like my boss, like texted me the day of the show, and he goes, "Hey, did so-and-so reach out to you about shooting the show tonight?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Here, text him." And so basically like the guy I was texting is a guy named Arvin. Shout out Arvin. And Arvin is dating Che, and they're both stylists at Essence, and like we've worked with them through Saintwoods and through Catalog 3, and so like I knew them. And so someone from Drake's team, who's like on tour with them as like the photographer and videographer, and like, he does like some design stuff too for them. Reached out to Arvin and asked if he had anyone in Montreal that could shoot, and so I guess Arvin sent my profile, which is wicked. But anyway, so I hit up Arvin. He's like, here, email this guy, and then I emailed that guy, and that was basically all I had to do. So it was pretty lucky and like just like serendipitous. Like it just kind of fell into my lap. Like I didn't have tickets to the show. I didn't like ask anyone for it. It's just like I woke up on Friday morning and it was like 10. My boss is texting me like, yo, did someone ask you to shoot? I'm like, no. Anyway, so yeah, it just happened like that. And then he was like, yeah, come to the arena at 5:30. So like I was helping my friend move at like noon, and at the same time I'm like on the phone with like the camera rental spot because I needed a second camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm like helping my friend move, and like being like, oh, can you reserve this camera with this lens? So then I finish helping her move, and then I go like pick up the camera, and then like I just didn't really know what to do with myself for the rest of the day. So I just kind of like sat around, and then went to the Bell Center at like 5:30, and yeah.
I feel like you kind of summed it up, but like that's the beauty of being in this world, and by in this world I mean like, I guess, creative world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's not like a typical day-to-day job where you have like certain responsibilities that you have to do every day. You know, things like these can just come up, and you kind of have to be spontaneous as well. Yeah. And I feel like you're someone who typically says yes to a lot of opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's cool. Why do you think, you probably might not even have an answer to this, but maybe you thought about this. Why do you think Arvin gave your profile?
I honestly could not tell you why, because like I'm sure Arvin knows a bunch of other photographers, and I don't know exactly how it played out, because he had also posted like a call out on his Instagram story like asking for a photographer. So I don't know like who hit him up, who he knows, like whatever. But I think it's just because like I photographed Arvin and Che's apartment for Catalog 3 recently, and so maybe I was just like top of mind for him, you know. But you know, I didn't ask. I just said, yo, thank you so much, and like, you know, made sure that he knew I appreciated it, because it was like one of the biggest like plugs of my life basically so far. Yeah. You know, like,
and I mean, you're only 23.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything from that experience?
Like I think I didn't like learn any like specific lessons. It was just like a new experience, because I'm used to like, I've shot Mural Festival, I've shot like small shows where like I have access to the media pit, which is just always in front of the stage, and like I could shoot for the first 3 songs that I need to get out. But this was like the first time shooting at the Bell Center, and also the first time that I've like shot like a huge production like that, and like worked with other, like with the team from the artist, you know.
How was the production like?
Like the concert?
Yeah, like, I mean, the reason why I asked that, I don't really know how a production would look like, how big it is, how many people are involved.
It's like it's unimaginable. It's like I knew obviously it takes a lot of people, but like the stage itself, like all the setup of the lights and the pyrotechnics and like the different like floating things he had, like it's so crazy. And then like on the second night, like at the like backstage, like where the Zambonis usually are, underneath the stands. Okay. Like there was all these workers with helmets on, and they were just waiting for the show to end, because as soon as the show ends, like they take it down, they pack it into the truck, and they leave, you know? So it's like, and the amount of people just working for Drake, like on a concert like that, is like insane.
How many people are we talking here? I mean, obviously you don't know, but
I don't know, but it was like, you know, there's a tour manager, and there's assistants, and there's all these people who I don't know what they do, but they were there anyways. And then there's like his whole entourage and his security. So it's like, it's really big, and just like getting the experience of like working on a gig like that, and then like having full access to the Bell Center. Like I could have gone like through the crowd, I could go up into the stands, I could go wherever, and then having to like turn around the photos as soon as the show was done, like in the back room, like on my laptop, like editing and like sending off the raw files. Like I had never really done anything like that.
How was that like? Yeah,
it's good. Like it's not, it wasn't hard, because I'm like used to working pretty fast anyways, and like it was pretty simple, straightforward. But it was just like a new experience for me. But it didn't like, nothing about that experience really phased me. I feel like I was like ready to do it. Yeah. Like
Wow.
I didn't,
Okay.
I was like a bit nervous before just because I didn't know how it would play out and like whatever. But like once I was in it, I was like, this is very, very cool. And like, but not as like, it's tiring because you're on your feet, but it's not, if you've shot shows and like you know how to like work with a team of people and like process your images fast, like it's not difficult work. You just need to know.
Did you feel like you're like, you had like a tunnel vision type of thing? It was just you, your camera, and the show type of thing?
Sort of.
Did you forget about everything else around?
Sort of. I mean, I kept running into people on the floor that I knew. Like I just kept running into my friends and shit, which was really nice because they were so happy that I was like shooting. Like they were so stoked. And so like that would like kind of snap me out of it. But otherwise, yeah, like I was pretty dialed in, just kind of running around and like trying to follow, because the stage was in the middle. So like I was trying to follow him so that I would always be facing him to get good shots.
You got great fucking shots. I think we all can agree. Like, I mean, you know, I think the whole Montreal saw those pictures.
Thank you. Yeah, I was pretty happy with them afterwards. It was like, especially because like I thought I was only doing the first night, but then I ended up doing the second night also. And so the second night was cool because I like knew how the show would play out, and like I knew like when I should be using my wider lens, or when I should be like more focused on just him, or like when I should be standing up in the stairs, or like when I should be by the stage. So it was much easier to get like my shots on the second night.
How many photographers were there?
There's the guy who's like, there's two people from his team that were shooting like all the shows on tour, and then there's two other photographers and me.
Gotcha.
So, like 5, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a Drake concert.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. I'm very proud. Genuinely. I mean, you know, it's cliche to say it, but like, are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I'm proud of myself, but I'm trying to like move past it, because it's just like, it was like a big thing. It was very cool, and obviously like when I posted the photos, I got amazing feedback and support, and like people were really showing love, which is great. But it's just like, okay, now I gotta like I gotta follow it up, you know, like somehow. Or
so what do you got going in your, like, how are you gonna top that up? Do you know?
No, I'm not worried about topping it, because like it's like, you know, you can't, like, unless like for now, like I can't like do anything like bigger than that. Like I feel like that's gonna be like kind of the peak of my year, and then like whatever else happens, I mean, maybe not, but like whatever. But I know otherwise I'm like just kind of back to my normal like freelancing and working in Saintwoods. And I've been like, since school ended in May, or in April, I've been telling myself I'm gonna like make a book or a zine and like have an exhibit, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So
did Max's exhibition, This Can't Be It, did it inspire you in a way?
It inspired me for sure, because I saw him do it and I was like, damn, like I could do this too for sure, because I have enough work for it. But I'd already been thinking about doing like a book and a show.
You did do an exhibition in 2020, hey?
I've never done a solo one. I've done a couple group ones through school.
Yeah, okay.
But I've never had like a solo show for my work. So that like I want to do like a proper like gallery show with a book. But I've like, because I worked on this big project in school this past year, and so like, and I really like the photos that are in it, and I wanted to like put it out as a body of work. I just haven't like gotten around to it.
Do you have an inspiration, like a photographer that you have looked up to?
There's a bunch. I try not to like look too closely at a lot of photos, because I don't want to be like overly influenced, and I've like caught myself making work that's like pretty just reductive of like other photographers' work that I've studied. But like one of my biggest influences in the last year that really influenced the project that I'm talking about was Wolfgang Tillmans, who like is most known probably for shooting the album cover for Blonde by Frank Ocean.
Oh, he did that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like my whole thing with Tillman started, like I was always aware of him, but then like last September I was in New York for Fashion Week, and like he had a huge retrospective show opening at MoMA.
Okay.
The day after I was leaving from New York. So like the day, so I didn't get to see the show like when it was opening, but I went to MoMA the day before and I bought the book for the exhibition, and then I went back home. And then I was lucky enough to go to New York again in December and see the actual show. But I think just like his, not so much his work, because his work is very nuanced and like deals a lot with like LGBTQ rights and like just like representation. And like his work is like, he's been working since like, you know, the 80s. So like obviously like I'm not comparing myself to him, but like just his way of presenting photos is really interesting, because he does like, especially for the last exhibit, he does like these like huge walls like covered in prints basically. And he has different like print mediums, and like some of them are framed, some of them aren't framed, some of them are just like hung up on clips. And so it's just like, it's very fun to look at, and that's something that really influenced the project that I worked on in school this past year. But yeah, I'm trying to like, it's hard to balance like doing research and having reference points and then making something for yourself, or at least like that's something I struggle with, is like not like mimicking what I'm seeing, and just like I need to find ways to make things my own, which is something that I'm like constantly working on doing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little tough, because like, for example, clothing brands, they have a lot of references, right? Because it's a little easier to turn to have references and like make something of your own with them. But with photography, I feel like it can be difficult.
Yeah, it's hard because like, yeah, there's only so much. I mean, there's a lot you could do with photography, but at the end of the day, like most images are just gonna end up as like printed images, and like you know, in a way, it's sort of like limiting what you could do with photography. But, and you know, like especially now, like there's so many photos everywhere, like everyone's taking pictures all the time, so it's easy to get caught up in like, oh, like my work looks like this person, or my work reminds me too much of this person. But I don't know, I think there's like ways to work through that. It's just like developing those skills of working through it.
You told me during our text conversation that you're someone who is motivated by fear of failure.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to touch on that.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Are you scared of failure type of thing, or?
Yeah, I think like I just never want to do a shit job at anything. Like I think like growing up, my parents, not that they were so strict about school or anything, but like they held me to a certain standard that I've like adopted into my own life now, which I'm like very grateful for. But they always expected me to do my best, whether it was in sports, in school, my chores, like at home, like whatever it was, like they wanted me to do the job right. And so that's just sort of like how I was raised, and like the way I carry myself now is like, it needs to be up to my standards. And I guess like anyone could say that, but like, I guess what I mean by fear of failure is really that like, I just don't want it. I don't want to do something and it's like not worth the time. Do you know what I mean? Like I put a lot into like my work, or into a photo shoot, or into a project. Like it needs to be useful, or it needs to be like worthwhile, you know?
Do you get consumed by the projects you work on?
No, I don't think so. Or at least not yet. Like I think I'm able to like
balance it out.
Yeah, go in and out of it. But
Okay.
I've also like, it's hard to say because I haven't worked on so many like big projects. So like I've done a few for school, but they're never like so consuming.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is this standard, I guess, that you kind of hold yourself to?
I mean, it changes like from thing to thing, but it's
Yeah.
just like, I've just always wanted to excel at whatever I'm doing, like whether it's sports or school or photography. Like I've always been competitive about every like aspect of my life. And I've always, not that I want to like I always want to surpass the people that are next to me. Like I'm not that I'm like being so like backstabbing and like,
Yeah, no.
like I'm not being like, I'm not doing that shit, but it's like, I always want to work harder than the person next to me. I always want to like do a little better than the next person, you know? It was the same in school with my friend. Like I was lucky, like my friend group, I've been friends with them since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And like, they've always been like, all my friends are like good students, like they have good jobs, like whatever. So I've always like wanted to one up them and like constantly like stay in line with them. And especially like in CJEP, when like I decided that like I was really gonna go into art and shit, and like my friends would be like, oh, you're not gonna make any money, like it's gonna be so hard, like starving artist, blah 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 blah. Like, not that it didn't like motivate me so much. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna show them, but like I was like, you know what, it's fucking true that it's hard to make money in this
100%,
shit.
yeah, I agree.
And I need to like make it work for myself. I need to show them that I could like do this. I need to like show myself that I could do this, because obviously like when I was a kid, like I was like, I don't know how this works, you know. But yeah, so it's just always it's I've always been surrounded by people that are like excellent at what they do, no matter what it is, and so I've always just wanted to like be on that same level.
Do you subconsciously or even consciously compare yourself to people a lot?
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Everyone does, yeah.
I think everyone does. For photography specifically, I try not to like look too much at other like what other people are doing. Like if anything, like I'm looking at other people's work and like being like, oh, that's cool, like whatever, like being more complimentary, or like seeing like thinking about how they did a certain shoot, or like trying to like learn something from looking at their work, more so than being like, oh, like this is better than my shoot, or like worse than my shoot, like, because that's just not productive at all, I don't think. So I think like, yes, I do compare myself to certain photographers, but then I realize like a lot of them are older than me anyways. And so like if I see a photographer and they're doing like some big shit and I'm like, fuck, I wish I was doing that. Like most of the time I'm like, that person's like 28 or 30. Yeah. Like I'm 23. Like right. Obviously it's not like I'm not there yet, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. So the portfolio that you have built as a child, if you could go back and build that portfolio again, would you do the same things?
Probably. I mean, like it's worked out for me. The way I like have come into photography has worked out for me, and I think like it was very natural and organic the way I've like started discovering my style and like started to see like what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And yeah, I never felt like I was forcing anything or like trying to be a photographer that I wasn't, which is nice. Or maybe I did like when I was like 18 or whatever, but like I've like obviously moved past that and like been able to, you know, work as a photographer in my own way and like just do my own thing. And so I don't think I would change anything that I've done. Like I think the way I progressed like makes sense for me, and I think I like every step of the way was valuable. And like even when I was shooting for gyms, like there's value in that. That's what I was saying before.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there's value in every part, and like I wouldn't like trade it for anything, because it put me where I am now, so it's fine.
No, well said. Okay, then how would you, or can you describe your style? Like if I'm hiring Aidan Matthews, right? I know it's going to be different. Like you're not going to shoot Drake's concert or mural like you're going to shoot Catalog 3 or a lookbook. But like, do you kind of know what your style is about?
I find this is like the hardest question to answer because I never know what to say. And I think like, if you look at my work, there's probably like certain characteristics just in how I like handle colors or handle, you know, contrast and shadows and things like that that are like constant to my style. But I can't really put my finger on it because like I was saying before, like I've done such a wide variety of work where like you said, like my work for Catalog 3 isn't like my work for Saintwoods, and my work for Saintwoods isn't like the work I do when I shoot a concert or shoot for another brand, you know? So it's hard to put a finger on it.
That's fair. I mean,
I also try not to like answer that question too specifically because I don't want to put myself in a box.
Like, yeah.
Because I remember once I was like 18 and my friend was like asking me the same question for like a YouTube video. And I like gave him this answer, and like looking back, it was such a bad answer. But just like,
do you remember what you said?
Not really. I just remember being like, oh, I like film and I like the colors on film, which is like so stupid because like.
And it's like old and it's grainy.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool,
dude,
man.
I used to say the same thing.
Yeah, but it's just like obviously like now I'm older and more experienced, like I'm realizing like that shit doesn't really matter. Like I think like if you're talking film versus digital, like I do both, and it doesn't make a huge difference. Like really, I only shoot film now if someone is specifically requesting I shoot film, or if I'm gonna darkroom print it, then I'll shoot film. But otherwise, like I could, using this camera, I could make images that I like and that are stylistically like in line with what I want without having to spend an arm and a leg on film and processing. So yeah, I don't know, like it's hard to define my style, but I think like it just kind of comes out when you see the photos.
No, that's fair. I mean, you said it right. Like you don't want to put yourself in a box, regardless type of thing. Yeah, I don't know, man. Human have these tendency to categorize people and like put them in systems, and I guess I did that like subconsciously or consciously.
But I think it's like a natural question anyways though, because like even when you study in art history, like, and you look at specific artists, they'll say like, oh, their work is defined by this, this, and that. And it's like, okay, but like that's what people say when they've studied the work for so long, and like the artist is probably dead. So like they've have the full body of work to look at, and they could like make these patterns and connections between the different works. But like I'm 23, I've only been shooting seriously since I was like 18, and like I've only made a little handful of like personal projects. So like my style is constantly changing. So it's hard to say like now like what my style is, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think like there is a like, the only words I would use are like there's a mix of like spontaneity and like candidness and like staged things, especially like in the project I was telling you I want to show. Like there's a mix of like snapshots and like more posed things, but like otherwise like it's such a big mix. Like sometimes I use flash, sometimes I don't, sometimes I'm shooting black and white, sometimes I'm shooting color.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. We both are so young.
Yeah.
Like lately I've been trying to like kind of discover how I talk to people. And I don't think I am certainly not able to right now, because I want it to make sense in my head, but I feel like it won't. In the time as I evolve, I'll have different styles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Exactly. Yeah, no, so you did touch on exhibition. Do you think there's an exhibition coming?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. I just like I need to figure out how I'm going to pay for it and where it's going to be. But like I literally have a full project ready to go. Like I have a lot of prints made already. I'll probably reprint some of it, but it's just like originally like I finished school in April and I had this project and I was like, oh, I'm going to like put it out by June. Obviously it didn't happen. And then like every month I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on it this month, and then I don't, but it's fine. Like I'm not in a rush, and like this project is big and constantly changing. And so like, it'll be nice. Like I think the next few weeks, like I don't have a lot going on luckily. So I'm just going to take some time to like go through the photos I've shot since April and just like sort of add to it and edit the project a bit. And then I'll probably start working on the book version of it first.
Yeah.
And then like once the book is pretty much set and like I figure out how to fund it and whatever, then I'll start thinking about having an exhibition to go with like the launch of the book. But I'm like aiming now for like October, November.
Okay, that's quite close.
Yeah, but I think I could do it. It's not like,
I mean, you're holding yourself up to that standard type of thing, I guess.
We'll see. I'm gonna start watching. I'm gonna start school and then just not work on it, but it's fine.
No, I get it. Have you talked to Max about like from I guess like how he did it type of thing?
A little bit. I know he worked a lot with Sarah.
Yeah.
To make it happen. But like I was saying before, like I think like Max's show was really cool and I really liked it. Like I went and it was super sick, and like he had a great turnout, and I think it was a really big success for him. But I just like I don't want to just like mimic what he did.
Yeah,
I want to find a way for me to make an event for myself that like feels like truer to me, and like not like I'm trying to copy what he did. But again, like there's only so much you could do with an exhibition and a book launch. Like it is pretty much like, rent a gallery, have people there and like whatever. But
so anything you would like to say to your future self, I guess? Future Aidan Matthews photographer.
This is like in grade 11, I had to like write a note to myself in 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I wrote. But it's just like, I don't know. I guess like future me, I hope I like figure out how to like really do the shit on the next level. And like, I don't know. I feel good in like where I am now. So I feel like future me will just be a product of like continuing the path I'm on now.
Well, then there's that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. And by next level, what do you mean, real quick?
I don't know. I just want to do like bigger things. Like I think the Drake show is like cool and like pretty big for me, like
Mm-hmm.
big client obviously, but I want to do more. Like I said, like I want to have my book, I want to have a show, and I want to do just more of what I've been doing this year, like more lookbooks, more editorials, like just
More and more.
just more and more, and just like putting more stuff out and just like really solidifying myself as like a really good photographer.
You know what? Like we recorded first, and things happen.
Yeah.
I'm noticing this consistent thing that has been happening lately with the podcast, that something kind of goes wrong. But I mean, I guess that's the beauty of it, and it's also, I'm so new to this.
Mhm.
Like things are always going to happen, I feel like.
Well, that's how you learn shit. Also,
Yeah,
it's like, bro,
exactly.
my first few photo shoots were fucking insane. Like I've done photo shoots that are like the setups are so janky, or like the just like the way I like did shit was so janky, and like that's how you learn how to not do things in a janky way. Like you
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
learn how to do it the right way.
Exactly.
You
No,
know?
I totally get
It's
it.
it's a long process. No one teaches you how to do this shit.
For sure. And I don't know, like I feel like podcasting is so, what I feel like is it's new. Like there's not a lot of information about like how it's done. Obviously
Mhm.
nobody's gonna hold my hand and tell me.
Mhm.
But you know, like information is not readily available about like, but yeah, once again, thank you for starting the conversation.
Of course. Thank you.
Of course, any, if somebody wants to have a conversation with Aidan, how would they do so?
Just send me a message on Instagram. I don't gatekeep shit also. Like a lot of people like hit me up and ask me like, how did I shoot something, or like how did I get in contact with someone? And like I don't give a fuck. Like I'll tell anyone anything as long as it's not like NDA, like like
Yeah, of
like
course.
things I can't say. But like otherwise, like I've had a lot of people recently like hit me up and ask me about my cameras, my film setup, like whatever, like how I started working in saintwoods, whatever it is. Like I'm like down to answer any question, So I think like there needs to be people that answer the younger people,
Yeah.
that are like trying to figure it out too. Because like when I was starting out, like I didn't have a lot of people that I could ask like questions to, or like I was just too scared to. And so I don't want to be like this like big scary photographer who's like a big shot and like he doesn't want to talk to anyone. Because it's like at the end of the day, like if you're like scared of people coming for your job, it's because you're not good. Like I think if you're good and you're secure in your work, then like you have no problem sharing how you do it.
That's a good way to put it. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so Aidan C. Matthews? No.
aidanc.m on Instagram.
aidanc.m on Instagram
aidancmatthews.net
is
website.
the website. Not .com?
No, because my old website was .com, and then the domain only expired like yesterday. So when I was making
literally yesterday?
when I was
Oh.
making my new website, I had to like choose a different domain,
I see.
which is fine because .net sounds kind of cool. I find.
Really?
I like .net. Sounds like
I'm
it's like
very
old-timey
adamant.
website.
I'm very adamant on having .com.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. It's easier to find if it's .com, but I was like, fuck it, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Anyways, but yeah, anybody else you think I should have a conversation with?
Okay, you asked me before, and I don't think I answered. I have a friend named Emiliano who's pretty cool. He has a project called Alternative Research, and he also has a project called Rata Studios. And so with Rata Studios, he's like basically rebuilding like vintage bikes and like fixing them up and shit, which is really cool, and like
Okay.
customizing them. And then Alternative Research, I think, is going to be like, he hasn't like, I don't know too much about it, but it's basically like his brand that he's working on with his friend Tristan. And I guess they're going to be making clothing and other products. So he's cool. Who else is cool? I want to plug someone else. I mean, I know like so many, like I go to school with a bunch of photographers.
Yeah.
So like I could like send some your way because I have some friends from school that are doing like amazing stuff and like
Cool.
they're really cool. So I'll send that to you.
Cool.
For sure.
For sure. Cool, dude. Once again, thank you. And that's it. We can just cut it right here type
Sweet.
of thing.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. We got it done. You have a
did.
firm handshake.
Thanks.